delays, huh?
No, and I'll explain that right now. So let's think of it in a simple sense. This channel is 7, which is plugged into the piano. We're gonna just pretend that this is all we're working with for now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things we can click and switch and all that, right? So the first thing you gotta know is this is your volume. This just controls how loud it's outputting out the speakers. Now, you'll see when sound plays that there's a green sort of light that emits that goes up. This tells you how much sound is being outputted, or how much sound is coming in, actually, not coming out. And if it's going to orange or red, it means it's too much, it's too high coming in, and it does what's called clipping. So it'll start sounding a little distorted. So you want to make sure your level is, not super high, not super crazy. That's the first thing. This controls your output level.
Stays on green.
Yeah, make sure it's always on green, and it's not too loud, but it's just, sound is all about mixing things to your own ear. Everyone's ear is a little different, but you want to try to get the general idea, right?
Yeah.
These two knobs control how much is coming in the board.
Which two?
You have your gain and you have your compression. It stands for compression. So typically, to just simplify it, leave it at the middle. I mean, It's not letting too much volume in, but go ahead and play just like a few keys, like push them down. So right now it's not hard, right? But like, let's say we turn this up, play that. See how much is coming in and how high it's going? So typically you want to just kind of make sure that there's not too much sound coming in, because it'll start to clip and start to sound distorted. And compression is when it also kind of allows how much volume is in. They're kind of the same. Gain's a little bit of more of a boost. Compression is a little bit more of like, it tries to squish the volume a little bit. But just keep both of those in the middle. Your pad basically is also like a compressor. And that's basically it. You have your mute, which mutes the channel so nothing comes out. Now this is where it kind of gets a little tricky. You have your SEL, and basically this controls your EQ and it controls your effects, and that's all controlled on this blue thing. So you see how the SEL is this blue kind of like square? It kind of means anything blue is controlled by this SEL button. Anything in the blue, like these knobs are not, but these knobs are. So when it comes to effects, we'll click the SEL on the piano, and you have your send effects, which is just how much effect you want. So go ahead and push a few keys again, Carlos. See how much reverb is on that?
Yeah.
Let's turn it down a little bit. Go ahead. It's very, very light. Now this controls what kind of effect you want. On this side, on your left side, is all reverbs, and on this side is all delays. Never use a delay on here, only reverb. I keep it typically on Hall 1 or Hall 2 on the piano because it's a very heavy sounding reverb. But go ahead and play it. So I turned that pretty high because you want the piano to kind of fill out the empty spaces. Now pan is how much is coming out the left and right. Always leave this in the middle so that way each speaker gets distributed equally. Your low is your bass, your mid is your mid frequencies, and these are connected. Your high is your treble. So I typically keep on the piano, since it's just piano, I like to keep the bass lower. So if I move it this side, it's cutting bass. And I like to keep the highs a little higher, adding a little higher frequencies. And I put the mids a little up too. That's kind of how I keep it. The master controls all of the channels on the sound, on the level of volume. Keep it at 0. And the effects return controls how much reverb is on all channels if it has SEL on. Keep that on 0. So these two always keep on 0. That's like, you're not adding boost and you're not taking away, it just stays. So if you ever have this is important to remember, if there's anything that is too loud and you turn this down and it's still loud, that means that the volume coming in it is louder than the output. So that's where you got to check your gain and compression to make sure that they're not all the way up. And if it's even loud while it's in the middle, you could always turn it down on the gain and compression and then turn the channel up. And that kind of balances, just finding the balance of sound. And it's a combination of visual, looking and seeing how high the green bar is going, and listening to if it sounds distorted. It sounds a little complicated, but you'll know what I mean, especially with this Apostles mic right here. So I'll show you with her mic. So I'm gonna mute this channel. Oh, muted it. So here's Apostles mic. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
I know because you guys are like traveling.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing. Oh, I can't see this.
Yeah. Okay. So it's this one.
This mic is a lot hotter, and there's a lot more input coming into this mic than that one. So there's a lot more volume. See how much is on there? So on Apostles mic, the pad goes down because the pad compresses a lot more. It condenses the sound. So without the pad, you see how high, like how immediately, just full volume. I will turn the pad off for a second and turn the volume down just to show you guys.
Testing. So right now it's really hot. Like there's a lot of volume coming in. So the pad
Compresses. Now even though the pad's on, you see how even at the same level, almost nothing is coming out. So I'll turn it off.
Testing.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
Now the pad's on. It's not muted. It's just really quiet. Like you can see a little bit of the green. So I'm gonna raise it up.
So you want the pad in?
Yeah, on Apostles mic specifically, because this mic, I don't know why these Shure mics, like the wireless, that have so much volume coming into the board, and it just ends up clipping and distorting and feedbacking. So, yeah. And then also, the reason feedback happens, and this is kind of important to remember too, is feedback is an echo on itself, and it's going so fast to the point where it creates like a hissing and loud, irritating sound, right? So why that happens is because the speakers, the output is coming in contact with the input. Does that make sense? So if the speakers are pointed anywhere near the microphone, and the sound of the speaker, whatever's coming out, hits the microphone, it's gonna start looping. It's like if you put two mirrors together and you have like an infinite mirror effect. That's the same as sound.
So what do you gotta do? Put the speakers out, or?
Yeah. So the way I position the speakers is I put them out more and I put them kind of towards the audience.
Just to have a back.
And I kind of try to, you got to consider where their mics are going to be. Their mics are typically right about, like, I would say a little bit higher, like right about where I'm standing. Apostles mic is, and even though it's pointed this way, it's still out of sight with this mic. So it's important to remember, if you're ever getting feedback, most of the time it's because two reasons:
It would be good for me to have
volume and speaker position.
Okay. I mean,
That's the main two reasons feedback happens.
one that would
Always check volume first. If it's too loud, no matter where the speakers are pointed, it's gonna feedback. Like you see how loud it got and it started to do that thing?
Yeah.
That's because we're standing behind the speakers, right? But there's so much sound coming into this that it even picked up that because the volume was just way too high. So there has to be balanced sound and position of speakers.
That was number 4.
Yeah, that's on every channel except a piano, like every microphone
The
channel.
speaker's connected to which one of these things?
This is Apostles mic. It's connected to channel 4. John Tao's mic is connected to channel 3.
And how do you know which mic is which?
Well, if you take a look at,
Oh, you can just mute the rest, or
so this is unmuted, but I'll mute it though. So to check if something is coming in, this is on any channel. To make sure you have a sound coming in the board, because sometimes the board might not make sound and you got to kind of troubleshoot and see what's up.
yeah.
To make sure, step 1, make sure there's always signal coming in. In this case, all you have to do is look at these little LEDs to make sure there's some sort of sound coming in. Every time, no matter how loud the sound is, it's going to turn green.
Okay.
Just to make sure sound's coming in.
It's not.
And it says signal, so it just it kind of like, it's a tester. It shows you like, oh, this is working. So you see this one's just staying green?
Yeah.
It's because this one has the pad.
Okay.
And that's a constant moving sound. So if it's constantly moving, it's going to constantly stay on. This one turns off because every time I speak, it turns on. Or if I talk a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, so see how it just matches the signal, right? That's basically it. So to sum it up, when things go wrong, start with is sound coming in before sound coming out.
And you
Okay.
do that by,
Just looking at it first,
at it.
yeah.
Yo, can I get the mic?
and you turn all these things on too, huh?
Yeah. Typically when service starts, you want to mute certain things. So like keep the mics muted because they can cause the wind might go, you know.
How do you do that?
Just when people are not talking,
Right.
just mute their mic.
Okay.
So like John Tell's mic is not used in the rest of the service after worship. Just keep it muted, and that way you don't hear any wind
Whose
or
mic?
John Tell's right there.
Okay.
Apostle's mic stays on because she's using that mic the whole time. The piano stays off. The pad stays off. I unplug my phone, but when you bring in songs to plug it back in, you unmute. So yeah, it's pretty simple. And then SEL on Apostle's channel, when she's talking, she wants it off. So you could do it two ways. You can mute the effects like this. There's no reverb on any channels now. Or you can go to her channel specifically, which is channel 4. In this case, like I said, you can put them anywhere you want, and you can turn her effects down like that. So.
We're gonna start off.